Thank you. Oh, gosh, Bill, and thank you for that very, very nice introduction, and congratulations on serving as president of the Iowa Renewable Fuels Association. And I want to just thank you for, and Catherine both, and Poet, for really being a strategic partner in helping us establish STEM opportunities all across the state of Iowa and helping our young people know that there are great opportunities, and those opportunities exist right here in the state of Iowa. So thank you for helping be a driver in that. I really, really appreciate it. I just want to begin this morning by saying what an honor it is to serve as your governor and really to represent a state that's a national leader in agriculture and renewable fuels. I so appreciate the partnership that we have with the Iowa Renewable Fuels Association, and I've been incredibly proud to stand alongside of you on so many important issues. This partnership has really been key to reinvigorating our rural economy, pushing the envelope on cutting-edge technology, driving the next generation of biofuels, and in fighting tirelessly for a robust renewable fuel standard. You know, we achieved a big win when President Trump reaffirmed his commitment to renewable fuels by making access to E15 a year-round reality. But as you know, we still must remain vigilant, especially when it comes to the timeline for the E15 rulemaking to ensure the completion before the summer fueling session begins, which is only 122 days away. So I want you to know I have not let up. Just last week, I had a phone call with Administrator Wheeler to really gain insights on the timeline to make sure that we were moving forward, especially with the shutdown. I wanted to make sure that, you know, this was still being addressed. He assured me that the completion of E15 rulemaking was still a top priority, that if they could reopen the government within the 2 weeks, that they thought he could still meet the deadline. We did, although it was on Friday. We met the criteria that we talked about on the phone. So we will continue to talk to him, reach out to him. I know our congressional delegation is doing the same. I also last week reached out to the White House to, again, just make sure that this stays a top priority. They don't lose sight. You know, it was a good win, but if we can't implement it, it doesn't happen. So I will also be out in Washington, D.C. in February for the National Governors Association, and again, we'll continue to schedule meetings and just stay on top of this and continue fighting. I also continue to call on the EPA and in those conversations to address the domestic demand destruction that continues to occur by undermining the renewable fuel standard through granting small refinery exemptions to oil companies who have been experiencing record profits. You know, when I talked to Acting Administrator Wheeler, and they are working towards this, I said the criteria for exemptions, they have to be reasonable, they have to be transparent, and any exemptions must be reallocated to the remaining obligated parties. So, you know, these are two big issues that we need to really continue to be vigilant and to continue to be focused on. So I look forward to working with you on those, and as well as really an RVO that aligns with the industry's ability to produce. Renewable fuels are vital to our economic growth and future prosperity, and that's why it's important, I think, that we continue telling our story about Iowa's renewable fuels industry, which accounts for nearly $5 billion of our GDP, generates over $2.4 billion of income for Iowa households, and supports almost 50,000 jobs throughout our states, and really creates additional market access for farmers. Our story needs to emphasize how farmers have the exceptional ability to increase yields while ensuring the preservation of our precious natural resources. Our story needs to capture the ingenuity on how we've used the evolution in technology to allow this generation and generations to come the ability to carry on our very, very proud tradition of feeding and fueling the world, and how our industry continues to innovate. For example, our ethanol plants are creating more ethanol from the same bushel of corn using less water and energy. And they're finding new ways to value add with high protein DDGs technology, which puts the DDGs almost on par with soybean meal for feed value. As the #1 biodiesel producing state, the record-breaking 365 million gallons of biodiesel produced last year is really encouraging. And it's important for Iowa because biodiesel production in this state is expected to be almost 20% of the total U.S. Production. And we know that Iowa's biodiesel plants still have unused capacity to continue the trend for increased production. So I think, again, that just goes to show that with a level playing field, our biodiesel producers truly can meet domestic demand. However, our renewable fuel story also should not forget the challenges that are interwoven within those opportunities. Right now, unfortunately, somewhere between 10 and 20% of the ethanol plant capacity is offline. Iowa produces more ethanol than the next two states combined, which is, of course, Nebraska and Illinois. So when we're experiencing difficult times, we feel that pain more intensely. But when times are good, we, too, benefit the most. It appears that we're on the bottom of a cycle that those of us who depend upon agriculture are all too familiar with, but it will get better. Ethanol remains the most economical source of octane in the world, and nations around the globe are realizing that. In fact, just last year, 11 markets have significantly expanded or added new biofuels policies. That's on top of 60 countries that already have biofuels policies in place. And this creates tremendous and incredible opportunities for trade to capture the new demand throughout the world, whether it's Brazil, who, with the policies that they're implementing this year, will double the capacity, Canada with their clean fuel standard, making E10 the standard, China, the Philippines, Japan, and the list goes on. So there is opportunity there for us. Here at home, we're continuing to foster the development of the renewable fuels industry through incentives like producer, blender, and promotion tax credits. The Renewable Fuel Infrastructure Program, which helps upgrade facilities, enabling more retailers to offer higher blends, helps to create certainty in the industry and really drives the way for expansion and growth. And that's why I included in my budget $3 million for this important program, and we'll work tirelessly to make sure that we can get that done. We understand the value of continuing to incentivize this infrastructure program because it really it supports the consumer choices at the pump so that they can purchase lower cost, cleaner burning, and homegrown fuels. And we know that when given the choice, our consumers will do just that. So as we head into this 2019 legislative session, our economy is growing. Our budget is balanced and our cash reserves are full. We have the lowest unemployment rate in the country. We have more Iowans working than ever before, and they are seeing their wages go up. We remain focused on growing the economy and jobs, building a skilled workforce, and empowering rural Iowa. We've made great progress. Last year, we passed groundbreaking tax reform, which was the largest tax cut in the history of our state, and we did it in a fiscally responsible manner. Record investments in K-12 education, a dedicated revenue source for water quality, provided affordable health care options for thousands of Iowans, and the Future Ready Iowa Act, which passed unanimously, that really deals with a workforce issue that is not only impacting Iowa, but states across this country. And this initiative will help grow family incomes, meet employer needs, and strengthen our communities. So this year, I've called on the legislature to take the next step and appropriate $20 million to fund Future Ready Iowa and really implement the plan that we put in place last session. So we believe the time is now to invest in Iowans, their future, and our economy. So lastly, as someone who grew up in rural Iowa, I've often said, and you'll hear me say it, that Iowa is one big small town. It's part of our character, it's who we are as Iowans, and we should do everything that we can to preserve and strengthen that small town way of life. and make sure that we're seeing economic growth in all four corners of our state. And that's really what Empower Rural Iowa is all about. And the Lieutenant Governor is going to share much more details about the initiative with you. But I asked the Lieutenant Governor and Sandy Erick with the Iowa Rural Development Council to co-chair the initiative. And I'm so appreciative of the Lieutenant Governor's leadership on this really important initiative that's focused on investing, connecting, and growing rural Iowa. So as part of that, we'll be establishing a Center for Rural Revitalization within the Iowa Economic Development Authority that will focus on making rural Iowa even a greater priority and help give our main streets and communities a roadmap to success. I also called on the legislature this session to double the workforce housing tax credit set aside for rural communities and to ensure that every part of Iowa is connected and has the same opportunity. I've requested $20 million split over 2 years for broadband infrastructure, which will help accelerate and leverage $120 million in private sector funding. So I believe that Iowa's future is bright, and each of you here today play an instrumental role in keeping it that way. You are the powerful force behind growing the renewable fuels industry and providing diverse benefits to farmers, rural communities, and workers. And you're why Iowans understand the importance of maintaining a strong renewable fuels industry. So with our shared persistence to drive policy that increases adoption and use of lower cost, higher octane, and cleaner burning fuels, our renewable fuel industry will continue to thrive. So thank you again for the honor to serve as the governor, and I really do look forward to working with each and every one of you as we continue to grow and expand your industry. Thank you for what you're doing every single day. Thank you. So I am really blessed to have an incredible partner in really helping continue to move Iowa in the right direction. And at this time, I would like you to welcome Lieutenant Governor, who has been a great advocate for the renewable fuels industry and Iowa. Thank you.
Well, thank you and good morning. It's an honor to be here. It's an honor to serve you in the role of Lieutenant Governor. And I'll be very brief today, but most important thing I want to say is thank you to the Iowa Renewable Fuels Association and the entire industry. Thank you for your support. Thank you for your advocacy on behalf of your industry. And thank you for the solid information that you provide to us as the governor makes decisions every single day that impact Iowa. You know, Governor has made rural prosperity a major priority for our administration. And it goes without saying that renewable fuels are a big part of rural prosperity. By creating markets for our agricultural products, by adding value and providing fuel for our vehicles and many other positive economic benefits. So thank you for the role that you play in providing economic opportunity for those in our state. As Governor mentioned, she has asked me to lead the Governor's Empower Rural Iowa initiative, and it's all about tackling some of the tough issues that we hear about as we travel all 99 counties every year. And the three issues that we tackled initially maybe don't directly impact renewable fuels policy, but I bet they impact your business and your communities in a variety of different ways. One of the big issues that we tackled is housing. Housing is a real challenge in rural Iowa, and we have a different type of housing crisis than we had 10 years ago in our country. We actually have a shortage of market rate, nice quality housing in our rural communities. And so the governor has proposed doubling the workforce housing tax credit as a way to get more housing built in our rural communities. And of course, this is tied so closely to the workforce challenges that the governor described. It's hard to recruit workers to our smaller communities if there's not a nice place to live there. And so this is all about making progress in those areas. Connectivity, meaning high-speed broadband internet connectivity, so important for agriculture, for business, for education, for every aspect of our society today. And it's also especially important if we want to recruit and retain young people in our smaller communities. Folks who have been technology native since birth aren't interested in living somewhere where they can't be connected. And so that's a really important piece of policy. And as Governor said, she proposed $20 million over the next 2 years to encourage significantly more private investment in unconnected areas of our state. Another intangible issue is leadership. Very intangible, but probably the biggest difference maker in our rural communities. The ones that are thriving and prospering have had strong leadership that's laid out a vision and executed on it. So we want to think about ways where we can encourage and develop the next generation of leaders for our rural communities. And of course, you also heard the governor mention the Center for Rural Revitalization, which is all about making sure that we continue to have that focus on rural prosperity in our economic development strategy as a state. I'm really excited to see where all this goes here during this legislative session and going forward. I'm very honored to be asked to lead and be a major part of that initiative. So with that, let me just close by saying, I'm really proud of the fact that I get to be part of an administration that fights for renewable fuels every single day. And you're all very well aware of the efforts that the governor has made at every opportunity that's been given to stand up for the renewable fuels industry. And I have the privilege of having a behind-the-scenes view of that. And I just got to say, we're lucky to have her leading our state. We're lucky to have her as an advocate for the renewable fuels industry. So let me say thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for inviting us to be a part of your day. And thanks for what you do every single day to make our state great. Thank you very much.
I think we have a couple of minutes for some questions. There's mics in the center here that you can get to.
Hi.
Hi, just Kelly Neuenhaus from Iowa Corn and also chairman of the Iowa Renewable Fuels Infrastructure Program Board. I just wanted to stand up and thank you for all the support and also for your continued allowing the grant money for the Iowa Renewable Fuels Infrastructure Program. We've done surveys at Iowa Corn, and the biggest reason people are still not using higher blends is availability. So we realize the program still is a need and is working well. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Absolutely. If the infrastructure is not there, we can't expect to drive the usage. And so we're making progress, but we're not near where we have the capability of going. So I appreciate, again, the partnership with that.
Governor Reynolds, I'm Mike Yerke. I'm the CEO for Southwest Iowa Renewable Energy in Council Bluffs. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your support of the RFS and year-round E15. My question is, how will you make sure the Trump administration, and specifically the EPA administrator, keep their promises to our industry and agriculture?
Yeah, well, by exactly what I'm doing, we haven't let up. Even from the day that it passed, I didn't say, well, our work is done here, brushed my hands and went home. We can never stop. We can't let up on talking about the importance of a robust renewable fuel standard, and we certainly can't let up on this next step. It is extremely important. I think, the opportunity that provides our corn growers, I think that is 2 billion bushel additional from that. So, there's tremendous opportunity there. So we'll continue to call. I'll continue to make sure they're following through with what they said they were. I am in constant communication with our congressional delegation. In fact, when I talked to Acting Administrator Wheeler last week, Senator Ernst had just been in. He's getting ready to go through confirmation. So the president, by making this a reality, reaffirmed his commitment to renewable fuels, and he has an obligation to finish what he started, and I believe that he will. But like I said, if I have to call every week, I will continue to do that to make sure that they can make the timeline that we need. And he indicated that, with the shutdown, that could have potentially been a problem going forward because that wasn't authorized for them to work on it, but with it down, they need to go, and he has an opportunity to do that. So thank you. But we all need to do that. They need to hear from you as well. So we all have a role in that, but please know that I am leading. We are fighting every day for that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Brad Wilson with Western Iowa Energy and Agron Bioenergy, both headquartered in Wall Lake, Iowa. And first off, I just want to thank you for everything you've done for renewable fuels and the entire industry. Greatly appreciated. You touched on it a lot in your speech, and the Lieutenant Governor, on revitalizing rural Iowa. And being in Wall Lake, and a lot of the ethanol and biodiesel plants are, and about as rural as you can get, Iowa. And we're trying to do all we can do. But can you touch a little more on what, direct plans are to revitalize and grow rural Iowa, with the dwindling population and economic hardships?
Yeah, so we've had a very focused beginning. We talked about, and both I did and the Lieutenant Governor did, about investing, connecting, and growing, and all of it is so interrelated. As I talk to industry and job creators across the state, they're optimistic about the future. Businesses are growing, they need workforce. So that is an opportunity for Iowans to really get the skills and to match them up with the phenomenal job that's available in every single corner of the state. So, we've got the policy in place. We've made progress over the last year. We held 18 summits across the state, really bringing all of the integral partners together, the stakeholders, so we can figure out what the need is in the various regions, because it's different depending on where you live. And they were sold out. So everybody is really bought into helping address what we need to do to make sure that our entire state is growing and viable. So we need to get the funding so we can scale the programs that are working. And that's not only within our schools with apprenticeship, pre-apprenticeship, certification programs, matching business and industry up with our schools. So if you're not doing that, get into your middle schools and high schools and show them the incredible opportunities that exist. Look for opportunities to develop a certification program that meets your industry needs, or a pre-apprenticeship program. And we're working on really building those out across the state. But also adults, we want people to know that, we need to be continuous learners. We need to, and we're willing to invest in them with Future Ready Iowan. The other, they go hand in hand, is housing. And so that's probably the second, if not the first, also biggest need that we hear as we travel across the state. And so we've got plans that are in place. We've got communities that are doing good things, but we've set aside some money for housing assessments that can be a match for communities so they can see what the need really is. And then, as I indicated, we've also doubled the amount of set aside for the workforce housing tax credit that's available for rural Iowa. And we're going to make the process competitive so that we know that communities that are ready to go, we can get them going, and then refill the tax credit and work with other communities to get them there. And connection. If we can't connect, we can't really do anything, and we can't even take advantage of precision farming, the technologies that is available, if we don't have the capacity that we need. So those are all areas that we're collectively working on, and I've had a very good reception from the legislators in both chambers. I think that they understand that this is really important and they want to be a part of it moving forward. So we put the policy in place. I like to say we talked about unleashing opportunities last year. Well, this is the time to act. The time is now to implement and really start making a difference in communities across the state. So let me say this too. This is a place for us to start, but if there's barriers or areas that we aren't looking at, this is not a one and done. This Empower Rural Iowa initiative is going to continue, and so they'll continue to hold idea summits across the state and really gather what are the next things that we need to be doing to continue the growth that we believe is possible. Long answer, sorry.
We'll take one more question.
I'm so passionate about that, though.
We're done?
Okay, oops.
You're done.
Kayla's going to be up on stage here if I don't, they have one mission. We have a full day, but just let me again end by saying just heartfelt thank you to each and every one of you. Keep doing what you're doing. Your success is our success, and so it is really a benefit for all of us to be a partner in this. Thank you.